How you doing, Harry?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Enjoying your trip?
Oh, it is going just dandy.
Dandy and hot outside.
Dandy and hot, yeah.
No, I appreciate you coming in. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Okay. Guess before we start, I'll put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're just gonna do kind of a light trim today?
Yeah, light trim, just clean it up a bit.
Okay. All right, yeah, you got good thick hair. It's just more fine and straight. So I think I'm gonna do a razor cut on you. I think my bottle's a little messed up here. So what's been your favorite part of Prague so far, but besides my place?
Besides your place, I think away from the Prague one has to be the favorite part.
Yeah, that's where the sights are, but that's where all the tourists are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is pretty much center almost anymore, but I'm as close to the center as I want to be. When you're going around getting haircuts with all the different barbers, you see how many different techniques and everybody does their own thing.
That's part of the fun of it, I think.
Yeah. Even my brother and I cut hair differently. Sibling rivalry, I guess. You want a beer or a whiskey while we're cutting your hair?
I think if I drink a whiskey, I'd probably pass out asleep. I have a low tolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just give people whiskey. Whether the haircut looks good or not, they'll think it is until they sober up, you know. Everybody leaves happy, one way or the other. It's always interesting to see how the styles in the other countries are too, the traditional haircuts. You know, most of the classic American haircuts is softer edges. You know, and of course now with some of the skin fades, they put some sharp edges, but look at all those old classic movies and that from the 40s and 50s. A lot of that hair was longer than it looked, and all that pomade and
pomade in it, yeah.
yeah, to control it. And there's different ways to do this. Sometimes I'll cut the same guy's hair different ways each time.
Do you ever cut one side of the head different than the other side?
Well, if you do an asymmetrical haircut, actually now, so yeah, some of the guys, we actually almost shave it, buzz it, shave apart and start blending it, and it's longer around the other side.
Nice.
But on purpose though. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But my grandfather started cutting hair in about 1914, so my family's done it just over a century. But Grandpa said if you get the outline looking good, the rest of it pretty much take care of itself, you know. That's the thing people will notice first is the outline. You say this is your first time to Prague? Or you've been before?
I've actually been a couple of times before, yeah. First time was in '93. I was hitchhiking across Europe and kind of hitchhiked down from Berlin to Prague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really interesting time. Like I said, I was here for about 2 weeks in '92. And definitely changed a lot in that time, but it still kept a lot of its character. I think they used to have a Levi's commercial back around '90, and it had happened, and I've met some guys here that told me that they knew people that had even done it. I think they traded a pair of Levi's for like an old Trabant, or you know, one of the old cars.
Yeah,
they actually traded in, you know, not the best of cars, but it's pretty good for a pair of jeans.
That was in '92?
Yeah, 90, 92. I was here in '92, and
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks of stay I paid mostly with 2 old pair of Levi's and a couple old Harley Davidson t-shirts.
I think I was using Deutschmark.
Yeah.
I must have got scammed.
Prices have gone up a little bit since then. But yeah, you had no barber shops here back then. You really hadn't had barber shops in Czech Republic and really most of the Slavic countries really in Eastern Europe since early 1900s. I think here since the First Republic around 1910.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what was being so difficult for us to find places that have the same history, and you know, the same single shop with the same history and stuff that you find in the US.
Well, it's getting a little tough even in the US sometimes to find the barbers. You know, like I said, you got a whole new generation coming up now, but it's not that easy to find experienced people. And the styles are a bit different over here in Europe. Although now it's kind of going back to what the traditional, you know, the classic American type cuts and the skin fades. When I first got here about 7 years ago, was a lot of these choppy footballer cuts. And what they call Czech hair, the mullets.
Mullet, yeah.
Yager, the hockey player, set that off here. All the guys wanted that haircut. So when you're not traveling, you got a regular barber?
When not traveling?
When you're not on the road?
You know what, my hair had about 2 months worth of growth on it. So I let it grow out ready, because I'm always scared that it's too short. But when we find a place.
Yeah. I thought it'd be good to do a video on do's and don'ts in a barber shop.
Do's and don'ts? What
Yes.
would you have for your don'ts? And
Do not touch the barber's tools.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's amazing how many people are like, let me just take a pair of these and snip here and there. And it's like, you know, don't touch a chef's knives. They don't touch. Not all the shears are super expensive, but some of them might be 2,000 euros.
Yeah.
And even if they're $5, it's what you know, people make their living with. And for some reason, these are footrests, not footstools. And a lot of guys want to stand on them.
Yeah.
You know, and even the heavy duty chairs, you know, some of them will tip over, but we have back home in the shop in Atlanta, a big, the Belmont traditional chairs, every one of them, the footrests have been broken, had to be re-welded.
Oh, wow.
So for those watching, don't step on the chairs. And don't tell the barber which tools to use. FYI. So yeah, we should do it. And then I guess how to find a good barber too. Well, the razoring does a little bit different effect because it slices the hair instead of cutting it blunt. So it makes those ends kind of lay in. You can take bulk out of thicker hair, and you can actually add some volume to thinner hair. You know, you're on the road, you know, it's got to be, you're always going to have to search out a barber. It's hard to find authentic ones, especially depending on the country. But it's first kind of like a restaurant, finding a good busy one. But seeing, for me, a lot of it's reviews. I get a lot of business because people see the reviews, and I guess that's compared to when the barbershops, my grandpa's time and my dad's time, it was all word of mouth, you know. But now, reviews online, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and then I see a lot of these places where they're posting on social media, and it's photos they've taken off the internet. It's not even their clients, which makes me a little suspicious.
You haven't found any of your photos on somebody else's feed yet?
I'm starting to watermark them, just in case, you know. But you know, now it's kind of, like I said, because there's a new generation coming up, and, you know, there's a lot of passionate, you know, young guys and women that are, you know, learning this. But depends on the hairstyle, you know, and the country and how long it's been going on. Because it's not that many places that like do this razor cutting. I learned this from my father when I was about 15. It's starting to make a little bit of a comeback, but it's a different technique. But, you know, you'll tell pretty quickly in the chair if the guy has any experience, because they should be able to suggest to you what will work for your hair, your facial structure. But also I try to match it, you know, profession, lifestyle. Will that person actually use any hair product? Will they take any time on their hair? If not, I'll cut it a little bit differently.
So what does my head say?
That you're gonna wait a couple months before you get another haircut? But no, you obviously know, you've been, you know, gone to so many barbers and what you're doing, you obviously can tell if somebody can cut hair or not. And you do have good hair to work with, you know. But if you're gonna wear a ball cap most of the time, or if you're gonna, you know, let it go, and whether you're gonna style it, you know, sometimes if you're on the road all the time, it's not so easy to keep up with some of it. And then I'll also, you know, guys become a creature of habit. You know, it's like, look, no matter how much you like your haircut, doesn't mean you have to do the exact same thing every time. You can do the same type of style and vary the lengths with the seasons, or you can switch it into other styles. And that's where a lot of these haircuts do look good with the shaved in parts and that, but then you are locked into that for a while, and it takes a while for that to grow out. And it's kind of like maybe a musician, you know when to do something and when not. You know, just because you can use a technique or do something doesn't mean you definitely, you know, that you necessarily need to do it. And somebody really conservative, if I could put an awesome rockabilly or some more, you know, extreme haircut, and it could look great on them, but if they are not comfortable with that kind of style, they're not going to be happy. And same thing with a guy that wants to stand out more of an extreme cut. It could be an awesome looking classic cut on him, but he's probably not going to be happy either. So the barber should be able to, when you, especially the first time, you should be getting a consultation and then tailor fitting that haircut to you and your particular lifestyle, as well as hair type. And a lot of guys, they won't put so much into it. It's kind of always amazed me, guys. Maybe I don't have it so much here, but guys complain about, prices on their haircuts in general or something, or having to do it, but they might go to the gym and spend big money for a membership, and then for protein powder and supplements and to look better and to feel better, and then they skip the hair, and the only thing else they have to set them apart is a good hairstyle. So this haircut kind of cut I just do, it's a little more organically, almost like you're sculpting some. I just keep combing it, feeling it, seeing how it lays. And I also come back in, what I'm doing is slicing into it, which will add texture. And even without blow drying it or putting product, you're going to have more texture in this haircut. But a little wax or hair product will bring all this texturing out. It all depends on how you angle the blade and the pressure to whether you want texture or not. Back in the 60s and that, when all the hairs, a lot of the styles, everything was perfectly, almost like a hair helmet. Everything was perfectly combed, and the razoring really made everything lay in smooth. But when my dad opened as one of the first men's hair salons, they would, cut it, put styling lotion, comb it all right into shape, put a hairnet over it, go underneath the dryer, and then come out and finish it. So it was just like every hair, just in shape.
How long did it stay that way?
A few days maybe. Back you would still have to kind of touch it up. But even with a lot of the say the pompadours and these fades and stuff, guys a lot of them were sleeping with hairnets. To keep it in, to keep the shape.
They kept that one quiet at the time, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they weren't. Yeah, that's why you had private booths. You could go back to Victorian time. Guys with the beards, especially if they shaped the mustaches and stuff, they had little like net things to go over that they slept with.
Yep.
That would hold it in place. You remember your first haircut?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one.
Traumatic experience.
Traumatized, yeah. It wasn't with a barber, put it that way.
Okay, all right.
The first one I remember, put it that way.
Yeah.
Then it was pretty scary.
I guess me, it wasn't traumatic because my, family were barbers, so it just kind of dad put you in the chair and that was it.
Yeah.
That's also when you can tell somebody's a new barber. Kids come in, you see them hit the door. Like in my 20s when I was working, I wasn't used to being around kids anyway. Lunchtime. Now they could be screaming, squirming, whatever. It's like, yeah, it's okay. So yeah, like I said, this haircut's just going to be a little bit looser. Be good for traveling. It's easy to take care of. Nice, neat edges. So even if it gets a little kind of tousled or messy looking, it still looks groomed.
Yeah, I was looking a little shaggy by the time we got here.
Well, that was good for me. And one thing in these razor cuts, if somebody's not used to it, if another barber is not used to it, and a lot of them aren't, the ends look different when somebody's combing through these. That's good, no blood. All right, I'm gonna throw a little hair tonic in here. You know, tonics before, especially when guys use pomades, they didn't shampoo their hair but every week or two. Some guys maybe every month. So the hair tonics would help freshen and sanitize, but it also helps with the styling. So they're all, again, with all these old products, it's all making comebacks again for these old styles. Blow dry your hair at home any?
Not really, no.
Well, you don't have to, but if you want to kind of send some direction to it, do like a medium heat when you first and push it the general direction that you want it to go. Then when you want to shape it, you put a high heat, you over direct it. I want to get a little shape in here, hit it, leave it there, and you come back in with the cold. And it'll help restructure the hair temporarily. Especially if you're doing like you want something parted or you want more volume. Night on the town, you might want to style it a little bit. Put a little bit of paste in here. depending on what product and hair type. Generally, you start back here more with your hair product because you got more on your hands at first. You start in the front. A lot of times it's too much and it'll look like something about Mary or something. Not necessarily the best look. You definitely have a strong growth pattern there, but to fully change that, I have to be pretty short. See if your sideburns are even. I want to send you out lopsided. It was with Barney. He was always telling Floyd on Andy Griffith he was going to get him a book on sideburns. Okay. See what you think of that.
Pretty good.
Just kind of a light shape up a little bit off the perimeter and then a little slicing and dicing up through the top to add some texture.
Looks like a winner.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.